Hi friends, it's Amanda and welcome back to AceKreates. Today we're gonna go podcast style so that I can wrap up everything that's happened in the month of July with you. Today we're gonna talk about everything that I've been working on for the month of July. I have a couple of completed objects, including my first knitted object, and I'm super excited that I did it. I learned to knit basically in the month of July, and I completed an object in the month of July. And so that was really fun. And then I have a couple of whips that are on my hooks right now, and I have some plans, so I'm looking forward to sharing some of that with you. I have some acquisitions this month, and then I'm going to be sharing some details of what I will be doing next weekend or in a couple of days, depending on when you watch this podcast. So grab your coffee or your tea, something warm and cozy, a project, and let's get into today's podcast. I've got Hawaiian hazelnut coffee in my cup today. I ordered it from a place in Texas called, I think it's called Lolo Savannah. I'll put it on the screen if, after I went to Hawaii and tasted coconut in coffee, I've just kind of been obsessed. So this is, it's actually decaf, but this is Hawaiian hazelnut from Lolo Savannah. So I'm gonna put everything on the screen so that way you can see it as we go through, as I talk through things. I've created some cards for you to be able to see the project name, the designer, the yarn I use, and colorway, as long as I remembered or didn't lose the label. So the first finished object I'm going to show you, I did show this in my beginner tries Tunisian crochet, but I kind of wanted to dive just a little bit more in depth with it. So this is the Loveland Lite from Toni Lipsey. And I'll put in some pictures of the finished object on so you can see what it looks like on. This is the Loveland Lite shawl from Toni Lipsey. I did this with 2 skeins of Berry Cashmere by Woolberry Fiber. The blue is Sybil. So this nice blue is called Sybil. It's from the Downton Abbey collection, and I don't remember what the white is. If you've made this project before, you can see that it's not as big as what the dimensions of the pattern call for. There's a couple of reasons why I chose to just stop where I was at. I ran out of yarn. The Berry Cashmere from Woolberry Fibers is only 400 yards, and that left me with about 120 yards shy of where I was supposed to be. So I think it was supposed to be about 7 or 8 inches longer. But I honestly just didn't want to cast on or add on another skein. And so I was pretty happy with just where it was at. It's definitely something that I will wear kind of around my neck instead of perhaps as a shawl because it's not as big. But I still love it. I love the 2 colors together. They work really well, and you can see because there's little pops of blue in the white creamy base, and so that's why I thought they really went well together. If you know what this colorway is, please let me know. Put it in the comments below because I'm not sure. It's got specks of blue and yellow. It's a creamy base, even some like little pinks, but not sparingly. It's more like pops of yellows and blues, which is why I thought it went really well with the Sybil colorway. And so, yeah, this took me probably about a month to finish. I started this on, let me look at my notes. Yeah. I actually finished this in June, but I didn't show it off as a finished object as a podcast in the podcast. So that's why I wanted to show it to you guys. I finished it in June. It took me about a month. You'll notice that if you've made this before, I chose not to at the end is like a couple of rows of Tunisian purl stitch. I just for the life of me couldn't comprehend Tunisian purl stitch. It just wasn't looking the way I thought it was supposed to look. And maybe if I'd gone through more than one row of it, I would have like seen that it would have gotten better, but it just was not looking good to me. And at that point, when you're kind of doing, oh, I don't know, like almost 200 stitches on each side, I don't want to do a row and then have to rip it all back, or do 2 rows and then rip it all back. And so that is something that I will definitely have to master a little bit later when I have the patience and maybe not fingering weight yarn to do the Tunisian purl stitch. And so that is, you know, something that I'll have to consider in the future. But I love how this turned out. It was a pretty easy project. Honestly, it was it was pretty mindless. And so there was a couple instances where I had to kind of frog back in the beginning. I probably had like 30 rows cast on, and I found a mistake and because I didn't count. And so I had to frog it back about 20 rows. And so thankfully it was at the beginning of the project. That is one thing that I don't quite know how to do is, you know, in crochet, you can just add a stitch in here or there if it was a mistake or a drop stitch if you really don't want to go back. I don't really know how to do that in Tunisian crochet right now. And so that is something that I'm hoping that I can learn in the next few projects, because I really always want to keep a Tunisian crochet project on my hook at all times. And so that's kind of my plan. I'm trying to stay in the realm of 3 to 5 projects that I'm actively working on so that I have variety, because sometimes it's just nice to, if I don't want to pick up a project, it's nice to have a variety. And so that's one of my things, is to always have a Tunisian crochet project on the hooks, 1 or more, but at least 1. And so, yeah, this was the Loveland Lite shawl from Toni Lipsey. This is my first completed knitted object. I'm so excited because I just learned to knit, and so I was happy. I didn't want to keep practicing on swatches and everything, and so I really just wanted to dive into what I thought was like a super simple pattern of stockinette in the round. And so this is the Cooma Cowl from Laura Dobratz. Hopefully I'm saying that right. This is 2 skeins. It's 1 skein of, the pattern calls for 1 skein of Emma's yarn. I chose the Hella Hank because I love the Hella Hank because it's got a little bit of cashmere in it. So I did end up, because the Hella Hank is a 600 yard skein, I did end up with excess. I had about 50 grams left, but it's really a 1 skein project with 1 skein of mohair. And so this is the Emma's Yarn Hella Hank in Cali Girl, held with Emma's Yarn Marvelous Mohair in Main Squeeze.
I don't know that one.
Thanks, Alexa. So yeah, that is why I chose this pattern, is because it was a simple stockinette in the round. And I thought that that was something that I could easily do. There are definitely a ton of mistakes in it, but I just kept powering through for my first object because I didn't know how to fix mistakes. So drop stitches or anything like that, I didn't know how to fix. I still don't know how to fix. My brain can't comprehend it right now, but I'm just gonna keep at it. And I think I wanna make this again in the future because I definitely went off pattern. I read the pattern through. I don't know what happened, but I read the pattern through and I read the increasing wrong. I thought it was a simple like 3 pattern repeat where we increased every 3 rows. That was not the case. And so that is why I ended up with something that does not look like the picture. If you check out, I'll put the link below of the Ravelry pattern. It doesn't look like that, but I don't hate it. It's still a really nice object. This took me about a month. I started this on June 28th and I finished it on July 16th. I was just trying to power through finishing it. And so, yeah, this is my first knitted object. I definitely learned a lot about knitting, and I definitely like it. I'm definitely not a car knitter though. I took this with us camping and I had to take breaks because I was getting nauseous, and I don't think I've ever done that with crochet. And so I don't know if it's that, or maybe I just haven't done too much car fiber arts. And so it's definitely something that I have to take in batches when driving. Well, I'm not driving, but when someone else is driving. But I didn't gauge this because in the pattern it said gauge wasn't super important. So I didn't feel like I had to gauge test. Plus, being held with the mohair, it was impossible to really pull back, and I didn't want to waste any yarn. And so that's another reason why like there's a ton of mistakes and I didn't try to fix them, is because I didn't want to have to rip back or anything like that. Because I probably would have ended up wasting a lot more yarn. I also had issues with it increasing, and I don't know if in the beginning I just wasn't getting it right, or if that's correct and what I ended up doing in the end was wrong. I'm not sure. The whole make one front or make one left, make one right kind of was a little bit confusing to me. So that is something that I'm going to have to like look into a little bit more before my next object. And so definitely learned a lot. So the gauge was supposed to be 4 stitches by 4.5 rows. I think I ended up pretty close to that. You'll also see that well, you might be able to see, I started knitting one way at the beginning, and then I started knitting a different way just with the way I was holding my yarn, because I was able to, I felt, knit a little bit faster. And so, but my gauge, or like just, it looks a little bit wonkier. And so, I don't know, I liked holding my yarn. It was where I was holding my yarn in my left hand and I was picking and flicking, I think is the terminology, instead of kind of having the yarn in the right and kind of wrapping it over. And so my gauge was definitely, or my tension was definitely more consistent in the beginning than up here. So, you know, it's definitely something that I need to consider, to fix if I'm going to continue picking and flicking and having yarn in my left, if I have to figure out my tension a little bit better. And so it's definitely all over the place, but it's also to be expected as a brand new baby knitter. I'm not surprised that my tension was all over the place. And my plan is always to have at least one knitting project on my needles, kind of like the Tunisian crochet. I want to make sure that I always have a knitting project and a Tunisian crochet project on my hooks at all time, just to give myself kind of the variety, as well as like, especially if some of the projects are bigger projects. So like my sweater is a big project, and so I might need a little break from the sweater. So I like having some smaller projects or different varied projects to get myself through the day. So if things look a little different, it's a couple hours later for me because I finished recording the whole podcast and found out that my phone had no storage left on it. And so I've spent a little bit just adjusting the space on my phone, deleting stuff on my phone. I managed to free up about 100 gigs. And so hopefully that is enough to get me through the rest of this episode. But if the lighting or anything looks different, that is kind of why. So let's continue, even though it's only seconds later for you. So my last finished object was this. It is called the Windowpane Scarf, and I still have to weave in the ends, but it's the Windowpane Scarf from Adrienne Lash. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, so I will definitely link that below for any of you interested in it. It's a pretty scarf, but I'll be honest, this was not my favorite pattern. I did this as a crochet along with my Stitch Night gals at my local yarn store, and it just wasn't the project for me. I did it more for the community, but in hindsight, I kind of wish I'd done a different crochet along or knit along. It's not that I don't like the finished object, it's just, there's definitely some pros and some cons. I'll start with the pros first. It's a one skein project, so if you do just the 5 windows, you can get it done in one skein, and you get a pretty long length for you to have. Okay, so that's really nice. The second pro is that it's customizable. So I showed off the panes. You can do the math. She gives you the math and you can add on. So you can make a thicker scarf if you want. And you can also add on another skein and make it a longer scarf, and then perhaps stitch it together to make an infinity scarf. That's what one of the gals was going to do in the crochet along. I think I'm the only one to have finished it, at least so far. A couple gals just kind of gave up. They did not like the pattern, and they just moved on to a different project. One skein project, customizable, and it's got a 2-pattern repeat, 2-row repeat. So that was really nice. So like once you got started, you could just kind of mindlessly continue. I will say this just for the cons, for me, this just wasn't a project for me. I don't think I would have chosen this project myself had it not been a crochet along. And I like some like girth to my project, or some I like to be able to hold it. And by the time you get to a spot to be able to like hold it in your left hand, you're basically almost at the end. And so it just wasn't for me. And I definitely, it definitely created a pretty end project, and I will be blocking this. I have not blocked the shawl, the cowl, or this. I probably won't block the cowl, but the shawl and this will definitely benefit from some blocking. So I'll have to do that at a later date. I'm probably going to end up giving this to someone, say for Christmas. So if, any of my family want to like put dibs on it, feel free. But I also want to block to make just the windows a little bit more consistent throughout. There was one spot in here where I messed up, but I was just at that point where I just wanted to complete the pattern, and I didn't want to go back and fix it. And so this is made with Dream in Color Smushy Cashmere. Elysian is the colorway. So not the project for me, but it did end up having a nice end product. So So next I'm going to talk about my whips, and I actually only have 2 whips on my hooks right now because I'm making plans and making room for other projects, and I'll talk a little bit about those after this. But the first one is what you just saw. This is the Hawberry Sweater by Veronika Cromwell. I'm well into the body. And I'm making this with Emma's Yarn Hella Hank in Don't Call Me Peaches. I think I have about 5 or 6 more rows to go. What's nice is it's customizable in the length. So you just take away rows here if you do not want it so long. I might call it a day. I might go look at what the pattern says about the full length, and then determine if I need to add any more rows because the next part is like a shell pattern, and so I don't want it to be too long because I am actually a pretty petite person. I'm about 5'2", 5'3", and so I don't want too long of a sweater, and so I might be able to be at that next point where I can go ahead and just do the next part of the pattern because I'm about to finish a row, so kind of makes sense it might be about that time. This has taken me right now a little over a month. I didn't dedicate much time in June. I think I started this around June 19th because the ribbing was just killing me. I did not like the ribbing and creating it. It's one of those things where by the time it was like a 15 stitch or so ribbing, by the time you get to where you can kind of hold it in your left hand, you have to flip it over again. And I actually messed up the ribbing. I have about 50 rows where it's correct. And then I got to about row 120 where I dropped a stitch and I said, I am not going back. And I was at stitch night and they're like, oh, that's fine. It's fine. And honestly, I don't even think you'll be able to notice it in the finished product that I dropped a stitch at some point. So I was fine with it. And, you know, again, lesson learned for counting stitches. And so, yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I'll probably take another month. This will be my first full complete sweater. I've made a cardigan, or like a, I don't know what you would call it, like a poncho type cardigan thing. Last year I did a test, but this will be my first like full body sweater, non-opened sweater. I did learn my lesson about I place stitch markers every 20 because it's a high number. I think I'm at like 242 rounds, and so or stitches around, and so I didn't want to have to count that every single time. So I just move up the stitch marker when I get to it, and that's at 20. So I haven't noticed or seen any mistakes, and so that's kind of how I'm operating. So I'm hoping to get this done by the end of August so that I will have a finished object for you guys. And I'm just pretty excited. I love how it feels, and it's working up pretty nice. I love the pattern, and just kind of the definition, the stitch definition here. And so the texture that it gives, and I'm liking the colorway too. It's a nice variegated tonal-ish, peachy, peachy pink. So it's really pretty. So that is the Hawberry Sweater by Veronika Cromwell. My next finished object, which I'm actually pausing for the time being, because it's not really due till Christmas, is the Adventurous Scarf from Toni Lipsey TL Yarn Crafts, and it's a Tunisian crochet done on the bias, and I'm making it with it's meant to be made with Advents, and while I have plenty of mini skeins, I chose to use one skein of Montana Crochet's sock yarn, and this was part of one of the monthly yarn clubs from last year. I don't remember what month, but this is the colorway Daisy, I believe. And then the corresponding minis, which I'll pull out. It's kind of a mess right now, but these are the corresponding minis. I had one more skein that's actually already in here from, I think, another random skein, because I actually have, right now I'm using, this is a Woolberry Fiber mini. I don't know what it's called. I don't know the colorway, but it was a nice light green. And so what I'm doing is, instead of alternating mini skeins, I'm alternating the main skein with a mini skein, and then I'm gonna just, as each mini skein runs out, I'm going to go ahead and add in a new one. And so this is for a family member of mine who likes green, so I'm gonna send it to home for Christmas. So the goal is to get this done probably by early November. And the reason I'm pausing it, so those are my two whips, and the reason I'm pausing it is I am going to be testing the full fade cowl from Violet Loops, Jen from Violet Loops. I don't know her full name, but I'll put it on screen for you. It's gonna come out later this fall. It's a long test period, but this is a Tunisian crochet cowl, so it's done in the round, and I've never done anything in the round for Tunisian crochet. I ordered a second hook so that I could make my own double-ended Tunisian crochet hook. That way I didn't have to go out and buy like the solid hooks. I could just use my already existing interchangeable hooks along with the cords to do it. I'm still deciding on what mini skeins that I might want to use for this. At first I thought I would use the spring tonals from Sewrella, but I kind of want to use that for a different project, because I have another project that I'm gonna end up with half a skein left of the Sewrella spring tonal colorway Marseille. And so I kind of want to use the spring tonals and that half a skein on something. But I have a lot of other options, as you might have seen in my organizing my stash video. I have like 98 mini skeins. And so I have some Quegu mini skeins that would look really well in a fade. So I have a lot of options. I have to just kind of like look around. Thankfully it's a long test period, but I'm hoping to get the yarn chose by probably early to mid August. That way I can kind of work on the fade, or I can work on the project and have something for you guys by the time the next podcast comes out in the end of August. And so I'm super excited that I got chosen to test that. And I'm super excited to kind of add another skill to my toolbox. I've never done Tunisian crochet in the round, and so it's going to be really interesting to learn as I'm doing this project. And so I'm really excited. I know I keep saying I'm excited, but I really am. And so my other project is I'm going to be working on the Lynn tank by Courtney Clark. I love Tinderbox. And I'm going to be using the Sewrella Spring Tonal Marseille. So that was what I was talking about before. I have 3 skeins of that. I'm only going to end up needing about 2.5 skeins, maybe even 2.25 skeins for the Lynn tank. And so I'm swatching right now, and I'm just making sure everything's good, because that was the same designer that I made the Lonnie crop top for. And now I knew it was my problem and the reason why that top was so big, but it's because I made the wrong size. For some reason, I thought I was a 48 bust, because in general, like women's clothes, I generally wear an extra large. And so I made the size corresponding to a bust size 48. And actually, and I don't know if it's because maybe the last time I measured, I was either pregnant or nursing, but I'm actually closer to a 43, 44. I don't know what was in my head and why I ever thought I was a 48. And so I'm actually going to be making size large in this. In fact, that Hawberry sweater that I showed you guys, I'm making size large. And so, because I believe the yard, no, I don't even have notes on it. I believe the large is a size 43 bust, but if it's not, it's definitely the 43, 44-ish bust that I'm making for that. And so I'm hoping that crochets up pretty fast. The third project that I have is going to be this summertime tank, and I'll show you the yarn in just a moment that I'm going to be using. It's the Summertime Tank by Toni Lipsey, and I'm really excited to make that. I specifically bought yarn for it for that pattern in mind. Originally I was gonna make the Hawberry sweater out of the yarn that I got for it, but I decided against it. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the acquisitions for the month of July. I just have one large acquisition, and the first doing of this was much better, but I'm not gonna put everything back in plastic. But I got a box from Sewrella. I did their pre-order for the Toni Lipsey collection. And I probably could have spent a whole heck of a lot more. I'm so thankful she had the pre-order open for more than just 24 hours, because I spent the entire weekend going back and forth and putting things in my cart and taking things out of my cart and finding patterns for things I wanted to make. I definitely have a little bit of FOMO on some of the colorways. The Tahoe was super gorgeous, and it was this just like perfect blue, and I love blue, and I'm definitely having some FOMO on that. So, but who knows, something might come up in a D-Stash Discord server that I follow, so who knows. But let's take a look at the yarn that I got. I got everything. Well, now everything has a project planned out. I had gotten most of it with a project, with some of it I knew I was going to make something together, but I didn't know exactly what it was at that time. So the first thing is I got the full set of 15 minis, because I knew I couldn't just buy every colorway with everything that I wanted to buy. I thought that getting the mini set was kind of a compromise. So it's in the nylon sock weight that Sewrella offers. And so this one is the pinks and the reds out of the set. And this is called Redwoods. My one thing is I wish we had the colorways of the minis listed. I know it's a lot harder because you don't necessarily know which one is which. But I almost got, I don't know which color, maybe this colorway in full skeins, but I didn't. So that is the reds and the pinks. Gorgeous. And then the next is the, it's called Joshua Tree, and it's the neutrals. So that you got like kind of one pop of color here, and the rest is more neutrally tans and creams, and then this muted green. And then the last is like the blues and the purples in the collection. And this isn't the last time that you're gonna see some of these colors. This was that Tahoe blue that I was really torn up over. I really wanted to get something and make it with, because I love blue, and but I didn't, because I'd already spent what seemed like a fortune on yarn in this project. So so I got all of these, and then I got 2 skeins of the sock weight so nylon socks, so just like the minis. I got 2 skeins of the colorway Surf City. And it's a lovely variegated speckled yarn with like a creamy base, and every colorway it seems like is in here. So like, this is why I got them to go together. I figured I could do a project with this. And at the time that I bought it, I didn't have a project in mind. Now I do. I think I'm gonna do the Fairbanks shawl from Toni Lipsey. I might not use both of the variegated skeins, but I think I'm gonna do like kind of alternating this every other, and then doing the mini skeins kind of a thing, or between each mini skeins is a row of the variegated. So that's what I think I'm gonna do with this project with that in mind. So then next I got, let's see, let's do this. So next I got 3 skeins of the Cashmere DK in the colorway Mendocino. So it's this rich purple. And so what's interesting about this colorway, I believe, they actually didn't use any purple in this to create, if I'm correct, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was this one. They didn't use any purple to create this. There's just kind of layering of different colors to get to this really muted purple. And I already have a project plan for this. And it's DK, which is one of my goals in my stash organization video, was to buy different weights and to try different weights. So I'm mostly a fingering weight kind of gal, but I did want to try some DK. So because I've seen a lot of patterns that I want to make with DK. So I do have a project in mind for that. So that's Mendocino. And then I got 4 skeins of the colorway Monterey, which is this rich tealy purple, and it's in Silk DK. And why did I not know about Silk DK before today? I mean, it feels so luxurious, and I can definitely tell you this is not the last time that I'm going to be buying silk, like a silk blend. And so it's just this gorgeous, gorgeous tealy blue. Again, I have a project in mind already, and I'll probably do like a fall project kind of idea video of everything that I'm gonna do. And so that is Sewrella Silk DK in the colorway Monterey. And then the last one, and this is what really, when I saw this colorway, and you've already seen it, but when I saw it, I just knew I wanted to make stuff with it. And so this is that Surf City, but in Silk DK. And this is what I'm gonna make that Summertime Tank by Toni Lipsey in. And if you look at the difference between the Silk DK, I'll show it up a lot closer, and the nylon sock, you can just see that the silk is a lot brighter, and I'm hoping it shows up on screen. The nylon sock just looks almost a little bit dirtier. It's still very pretty, but the creaminess is a lot darker. And the silk just, oh gosh, the creaminess is just so bright. And the colors are so bright here, where it's a lot more muted here. And so, oh my gosh, I love this. And this is really, when I saw this colorway, I knew I wanted to make something. I was actually going to make the Hawberry Sweater out of this colorway. But I didn't want to have to buy 6 or 7 skeins. I was just like, no, I just can't do that. And so I used yarn that I had in my stash with the Emma's yarn. And so I'm super excited to be able to use this. And so that was my haul from Sewrella. And so I'm super excited. I'm glad I have projects already planned out So it's kind of less thinking on my part as I'm buying this, you know, making sure I have projects planned so that when it comes in, it's just adding it kind of to my queue and what, when I need to make it. So like, or like when I get to it, kind of a thing. So I have to take pictures of all this, add it to my Ravelry library, and then put it in my stash. And so, did you get anything from the Sewrella Toni Lipsey haul? I'd love to know, just down in the comment box below. So the next thing that I wanted to share with everybody is that our next video is actually going to be a vlog, because I'm going to Flock Fiber Festival in early August, and I'm super excited. It was kind of a last minute decision between my husband and I. We actually have we have friends that have just moved up to Seattle, so I have a place to stay. So that really helped in that decision. And I just found out my best friend from childhood now lives up near Seattle. And so I'm going to be able to see her and her mom. And so I'm super excited. I'm super excited to go to Flock. A lot of the fiber artists that I follow on Instagram are going to be there. And then a lot of new fiber artists that I don't know of and I'm new to me. And so I'm really excited. I'm going to be going on Saturday. So if you're going, I'd love to chat and say hi and make new yarny friends. But I'm going to be vlogging the entire experience. So that's also another reason why, thankfully, I was able to delete and free up space on my phone. And so our next video is going to be the vlog. So that will be out sometime after Flock Fiber Festival. And so I am super excited to share that with you, especially if you can't make it. At least you can be there in spirit and see kind of what it looked like. So that way, if you are able to go maybe next year, you can. I was actually able to get my hands on a ticket. Someone couldn't go for Saturday, and I was fully expecting to pay for it, but she's like, nope, no charge. I'm just glad someone could go. So super thankful to the Discord community, the D-Stash Discord community I'm part of, because that's how I was able to kind of make this decision to go. And so it's gonna be a blast, and I can't wait to take you all along. Thank you for watching today's video. I am on a goal to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the calendar year. It is now the end of July. We are roughly over 300 subscribers. So thank you so much to those who have subscribed to my channel. If you have not, please be sure to give this video a like and subscribe, and so that you can be alerted when I upload that new Flock Fiber Festival video and any future videos. It really helps me out and helps others see my content if you like and subscribe. Comment below, what was your favorite Sewrella yarn haul colorway that I got? Did you get anything from Sewrella? I'd love to hear below. What are you working on? I would love to hear that. So thank you so much for watching, friends. I'll see you in the next video.